Back in 2014, Australia had a lucky escape. The La Crosse building, a residential apartment block in Melbourne, caught fire, and it was covered in plastic core cladding, like Grenfell Tower. The fire spread. Thankfully though, no one died. But it sparked concerns in Australia about fire safety. New products emerged in response to it.
Vitracore Generation 2 is a fire-safe architectural panel which solves the key issues raised by several high-rise building fire incidents involving non-compliant panels.
Like this one, Vitracore G2, a product made by Fairview Architectural, a company based in Australia. In the wake of the Grenfell Tower fire last year, landlords had to take down what we now know to be unsafe cladding types and replace it with fire-safe alternatives. Vitracore G2 was a popular choice. You see, in the jargon, it's got what we call an A2 fire safety rating. That means it's of limited combustibility. That's a fire safety rating high enough that if you pair it with similarly fire-safe insulation, you don't need to do any kind of testing. It's just assumed to be safe if you want to put it on a building.
We're seeing more and more specifications coming through now because of its fire performance, obviously since last year. And the sort of buildings that it's going on to is where existing cladding that has failed the recent tests wants to be replaced with a similar type of finish.
Vitracore G2 has this very high safety rating because in laboratory tests they can prove it doesn't have much in it that can burn. That's what limited combustibility means. A little unusually, it's got no filler. It's a so-called honeycomb, metal all the way through. It's very different to the cladding at Grenfell, where that plastic core acted as a fuel. Vitracore G2 has been picked for and used in developments across the country, such as the one behind me here in South London. The thing is though, there have been growing concerns in industry about its fire safety. It's pretty clear from those marketing materials it's made of aluminium, which will just melt in a fire. What's less clear though is that it uses a glue which is highly combustible. Vitracore raises an issue. Can you just test something in a lab, say it's limited combustibility, and have no requirement to test it as it's actually used on buildings? Kingspan, a competitor, commissioned an independently assessed full system test using Vitracore G2. Every possible part of this system is at least of limited combustibility, and it's being tested by having a fire lit under it. But you can see the G2 melts away. At the top, some edges seem to catch fire. This was a test failure. The temperature behind the cladding broke the temperature rules, hitting 600 degrees for more than 30 seconds. This test, which took place this week, isn't the first time someone has sought to see how Vitracore G2 actually performs on a wall.
We had concerns about the G2 material. We then contracted and won a very large project here in Brisbane, Queensland, to use the G2. So we thought we'd better test it first. So we replicated the BS8414 test. During that time, it certainly propagated beyond the fire source. In fact, went right to the top of the 8.5 metre rig with flames coming out the top of it. So it certainly gave us great concerns.
Fairview, the makers of Vitracore G2, said that this was a backyard test. This whole issue raises questions for the government.
I will ensure there is no room for doubt over what materials can be used safely in cladding of high-rise residential buildings. Having listened carefully to concerns, the government will consult on banning the use of combustible materials in cladding systems on high-rise residential buildings.
This might not be an effective measure though if you can still make unsafe cladding systems out of components that are deemed to be of limited or no combustibility. We know of two other cases. Here is one of them. All the parts used here are at least of limited combustibility. Another test fail.
Maybe this is the situation where not only do you have to achieve a classification of non or limited combustibility, but you also have to pass a large-scale test.
Vulcan, part of the Fairview Group in the UK, told us
Vitracore G2 has achieved a complete pass to the UK standard for full-scale wall performance. Vitracor G2 was tested by Exova Warrington Fire in November 2017. The panel did not spread flame and temperature results were safely below requirements. This test of Vitracor G2 demonstrates that the panels will not cause a fire to spread through the exterior or interior of a high-rise building.
We are still removing cladding from buildings because we found it's failed large-scale fire tests. Some buildings may be replacing it with Vitracor G2, which we now know has also failed a large-scale fire test. None of this regulation is straightforward, nor are we alone in facing these questions. When they repaired the La Crosse Tower in Melbourne, it was Vitracor G2 that went on it.